Post-match chat is live, and we've just finished the third T20 match between India and England. England have taken a 2-1 lead after an 8-wicket win. The police is after me for saying that for some reason. I don't know what's going on here in North London. But yeah, 8-wicket win for England. It looked like it might be one-sided a little bit early doors with England making big inroads in that power play. But then a great recovery from Virat Kohli with a little bit of support here and there. And India got to a competitive total, which England ultimately got to with 12 balls to spare. So big win for England. We're going to break it all down for you, as we always do. My name is Aatif Nawaz, and alongside me, of course, my friends, as always, we've got Anam Nadeem, Armaan Kirmani, and joining us today, special guest, commentator on Guerrilla Cricket, sports journalist. It is Nakul Pande. Nakul, welcome to the show. How are you doing, man? Are you good?
Aatif, how you doing, man? Yeah, pretty good. Enjoying some cricket, enjoying Dinesh Karthik's shirts, just switching for a few closer games.
Yeah, for sure. They've all been kind of one-sided at the moment with all the games going towards the toss. And yes, Dinesh Karthik. We're going to talk about Dinesh Karthik today for sure, because that man has probably a cell tower in his house. He has the best internet connection I've ever come across. But yeah, I mean, another win for England is kind of a seesaw affair without being particularly close games. They're almost kind of going one-sided, going the way of the toss. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's get your moments of the day, and then we'll break down the match. Anam, let's start with you. What was your moment of the day? Can I guess what your moment is? I have a feeling I know what your moment is.
Go ahead.
Your moment was Mark Wood smashing the stumps, wasn't it?
नहीं, मैंने कहा वो ज़्यादा predictable हो जाएगा. So okay. I've got another one.
There's a dusra from Anam. Go for it.
Archer bowling 88 miles per hour to Kohli, short pitch ball कराई है. Kohli ने pull करने की कोशिश की, top edge 6. मतलब ये बदतमीजी नहीं है तो और क्या है? मतलब और ऐसा बटलर के साथ भी हुआ, उसने पांड्या को एक top edge का छक्का लगाया. So ये बदतमीजी है मेरे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा.
Yeah, great moments. Yeah, those top edges were all over the place today, actually.
Yeah.
Look, top edges for 6, for 4, all over the place. It was busy. Armaan, I'm going to try and go 2 for 2 here. Like, my prediction is your moment of the day was Virat Kohli's cover drive. Am I wrong?
It was a great moment, that. He played 2 exquisite shots. One, definitely that cover drive, just at the beginning of his innings. And then a bit in the middle of his innings, he did another one, which he kind of pierced the leg side, played an uppish ball. If you know cricket, you know which shot I'm talking about. That majestic shot. The world's best batsman when he's on form. But that was not my moment of the day that I was going to pick for your show. My moment of the day was India's horrendous batting strategy in the first 6 overs, where they continued to bat RPO of 4 runs per over, just to set up the fact that they can blame the toss and the wicket for their defeat today. So I loved it, because I saw exactly what was going to happen for the rest of, another 20, so 20 overs plus 14, the remaining 34 overs. I knew exactly what was going to happen after I saw what they did in the power play. But we'll get into it, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. They're never shy of an opinion. I like that. That shot was gorgeous, by the way. It was the little flick where he just held back on that shot, Kohli, and played it. And Rob Key was on commentary, and he said something like, it's only the greats of the game can play that shot. And he referenced Kevin Peterson, which I think was a bang-on reference. Such a Kevin Peterson shot. It was a really good reference. Nakul, what was your moment of today's match?
I did love that Kohli shot through the onside. It reminded me, when England last toured, he played something similar. I think it was off Liam Plunkett in an ODI. Straight bat off the back foot over mid-wicket for 6. I was on commentary on Guerrilla Cricket at the time, and none of us could believe, it's one of those shots where you're trying to describe it, you have no frame of reference for it whatsoever. But mine was a just Butler 6 off Yuzvendra Chahal. Comes down the track, it's been beaten in the flight, stretches out like it's absolutely nothing, like he's taking gentle throwdowns, and with just a little flick of the wrist, plays a sort of straight sweep with a straight bat back over the bowler's head for 6. It's just a stunning bit of improvisation and hand speed, given that he'd basically been beaten in the flight.
Yeah, it was an incredible recovery shot. That it was quite something. It was a terrific knock from Virat Kohli. I mean, other days we'd be talking about it being a match-winning knock. That's the one thing that it wasn't. It was a fantastic knock, great recovery. It was on 28 of 29, pulled that strike rate back. I saw an interesting stat actually about Joss Butler and Virat Kohli's innings. They both had almost the exact same score. At the exact same point, sort of 78 or 77 or 46 balls, something like that. But they both did it in different ways. So Kohli had that acceleration in the second half, and Joss just started on fire. I'm going to put you all on the spot. I just want a one-word answer from you. Whose innings was better, Kohli or Butler? Anam.
Kohli's for sure.
Armaan.
How can a match-losing innings be the better innings? Butler, hands down.
But wait, no debate, just one word answers. Okay, we've got one for Butler, one for Kohli. Go on, Nakul, you can have the decider. I'm going to abstain.
Butler.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And I think, it was outstanding. And you know what? I'm a fan of cricket. I love to see the best players in the game, i.e. people like Virat Kohli and Jos Buttler, playing to their potential, playing this magnificent cricket that leaves you in awe, those cover drives, that straight six they hit off Mark Wood. Like, the play of the day for me, I give you my moment of the day, right? Because I haven't done that yet, is I think it's the third to last over of the Indian innings, and Virat Kohli's on strike. Mark Wood's got figures of 3 for 10 or 3 for 12 after 3 overs, right? So he's bowling absolutely beautifully. Incredible spell from Mark Wood. Whatever happens, he's had a great day, right? And Kohli just butchered him all over, every single ball in that over. He was in complete control. I think one ball he missed and then he swore off camera, as he often does. But apart from that, he was in complete control. It looked like a completely different surface, completely different environment to what was happening in the first 4 overs when England were dominant. But let's start there. Let's start right there. Let's go right back to the top. Anam, it started like almost a test match with England, bossing that power play. There were 2 slips in place in the 4th over of the innings. It's very unusual, but England just bowling really bang on, really, wasn't it?
बिल्कुल जैसे हमने पहले T20 में भी देखा था. They were just brilliant with their strategy. Up front, unleash Adil Rashid, पहला ओवर कराया, उसके बाद Mark Wood and Archer banging in short and zipping through the pitch. और वो अच्छा, मैं रेड सॉइल के ऊपर मैं कोई कमेंट नहीं करने वाली. आई एम गोना लीव दैट फॉर अरमान टू रैंट ओवर लेटर. मुझे नहीं पता रेड सॉइल का क्या सीन है. ऑल आई कुड सी वाज बॉल जिप कर रहा था, कैरी कर रहा था, बहुत फिट किस्म का, और एक ब्रूटल किस्म की फास्ट बॉलिंग जो है ना, पेस लाइक फायर, पेस इज पेस यार. यू कैन यूज ऑल द एडजेक्टिव्स यू वांट फॉर द स्पेल जो आर्चर और मार्क वुड ने कराया था. सो इट वाज सो डिलाइटफुल टू सी एज वेल. और एज अ लवर ऑफ फास्ट बॉलिंग, आई थिंक वो प्योर मैजिक होता है जब फास्ट बॉलर जो है ना वो ऐसे भाग के आ रहा है. चेन तो है ही है, बट वो बहुत जबरदस्त सीन होता है.
It was absolutely beautiful. Just that spell of fast bowling is great to watch. I think Mark Wood and Jofra Archer make a very good opening partnership. I do like Adil Rashid in the power play, though. But since you brought up the pitch, we've got Armaan with us. He's a master horticulturalist. A lot of people don't know this, but he's one of the greatest gardeners in the UK. So tell me, can you explain you gave us a great explanation on WhatsApp earlier. Just explain what red soil is and why that's different in the context of this series.
यार फिर तो मुझसे पिच के बारे में बात कर रहे हो. The pitch had anything to do with today. I don't know how much time we've got, but just for our viewers all the way in India, all the way across the world. देखो, black soil होती है, red soil होती है. Black soil में ज्यादा clay content होता है, तो जब बॉल हिट करती है वो पिच शुरू से ही टूटने लगती है. जो red soil है वो थोड़ी ज्यादा concrete की तरह होती है. It doesn't have as much clearance, so it lasts longer. लेकिन red soil पे turn ज्यादा होती है. Naturally, India need to win the series. तो उनको turn करनी थी. There's no surprises over there. लेकिन it backfired today, big time. तो ये थी soil की कहानी. अब आप मुझसे please कुछ क्रिकेट के बारे में पूछें तो मैं जवाब दूंगा.
I promise. I'm going to give you loads of cricket stuff as well. I just had to get that horticulture out. I think it's very underrated knowledge point. It's great for trivia competitions. Nakul, tell me, a lot's been said about this pitch and this ground in Ahmedabad. What did you make of it? Because we've had a few people reference the pitch chat, right? Do you think teams leaning on the pitch or referring to the pitch and as excuses is a bit overplayed, or do you think it's justified?
I got really quite bored during the test series of all the pitch chat at the Modi Dome. It became really quite tedious, really, really quickly. I had a day during the test series where I just had to just basically switch off everything cricket related because my brain was exploding with all of the. I wrote a piece for someone I write for where I described it as a vortex of BS that we all just sort of sunk into and couldn't escape from for many days. But there's a lot of different tracks at this surface. There's 3 or 4 or 5 different tracks that we can play on through the T20 series. They've all had carry. They've all actually been pretty decent surfaces, and in all 3 occasions the team batting first has batted really quite poorly in the power play. India twice. I mean, today, KL Rahul, who has gone through the last couple of IPLs being super aggressive in the power play and then stopping. I don't think he's. I looked through his Crick Info, the ball-by-ball commentary of all of his deliveries. He's not even tried to hit a boundary in this series yet. Like, low scores happen. Like, low scores happen in T20 cricket. They happen in all forms of cricket. They happen a lot to openers. Whatever. I wouldn't be that bothered from a, I'm certainly not here to bang any drums for either side. But if I was looking from an Indian management point of view, I don't care about the low scores. But to have your opener not even attempting to hit a boundary, that's something that needs to be looked at. And maybe he just needs to be a little bit more free in the IPL. It almost feels like he hasn't played since that Australia series. He's been basically a sort of netting for the last few months, and I think you're seeing a certain amount of tension in the way that he's playing. Like I appreciate it's difficult to be, Anam talked about the pace like fire of Wood and Archer, and it's difficult to be decisive when you've got that coming at you at 150 kilometers an hour. But like, I just haven't been quite sure what he's been trying to do. He's a great player, and I think India are quite right to stick with him and Rohit as their first choice openers, given their record and given what they've done together in a T20 cricket. But it would be a little bit of an issue. You need to find some way of letting Rahul be Rahul. And I don't think that had much to do with the pitch, to be honest. I think all three of the pitches for these three games rather in the T20 series have been pretty decent, I think. And certainly we've seen, you talked about great players stepping up. Well, we've seen some very good aggressive batting. We saw it from Butler. We saw it from Ishan Kishan. We've seen it from Virat Kohli. Seen it from Johnny Bairstow a couple of times. We've seen what can be possible if you back yourself. Today was a little bit about India being a bit too hesitant, but also just stunning from Wood and Archer, just picking up where they left off during that summer series.
Yeah, I mean, they were as we keep talking about them, really, because they've been absolutely stunning. And, of course, Chris Jordan has an excellent backup. Like, as I say, it's just relentless. You deal with these two fast bowlers, then you've got, you've got another one to deal with. And they just kept rushing the batsmen for pace. Let's talk a little bit more about Rahul as well, Anam. Like, he did look like he was struggling. He's obviously not had a ton of form. There was this kind of indecisiveness that Nakul's talking about. What do you think India's move is with Rahul? Where are they going wrong? Was it a case of, he's just in poor form, or was it really just England out bowling him, or a bit of both?
I think a bit of both. और अगर कुछ करना है तो उसकी भी वसीम भाई से बात करवाएं, एबी डिविलियर से बात कराएं. हो सकता है अगर कोहली फॉर्म में वापस आ गए एबी डिविलियर से बात करके तो भाई राहुल की भी बात करवाएं. हो सकता है कुछ बेहतरी आ जाए.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The right advice is important.
But on a serious note, I think Rahul needs to be given the confidence. I think there's a lot of pressure right now because he's not been able to perform at all. His last 4 innings are 0-1, 0-0. So, I mean, I don't know what sort of pressure is he under, and the management just needs to back him up. If they're persisting with him to open the innings, they need to give him a little more confidence. That dude, look, just try and hit the ball, like do something. ये नहीं कि भाई कुछ नहीं कर रहे और आउट होके आ रहे हो, कुछ तो करो ना यार, शॉट खेल दो, कुछ कहीं लगा दो, कैच. Just play attacking cricket. उसके बाद ठीक है, fair enough if you weren't able to convert it. लेकिन एक ऐसे mindset में मत रहो जहाँ पे you're not being able to do anything at all. So he needs to get out of the shell. Or maybe IPL आएगा, वापस अच्छा खेलेगा और चीजें अच्छा होना शुरू हो जाएंगी. So
yeah, I mean, the IPL is later. It's right now. They've got to win the series. They're under the cosh now. 2-1 down as well. And just before the series, I'll remind everybody that's watching, we had Ankur Desai and Nikesh Rugani both predicted 3-2 wins for India. I predicted a 3-2 win for England. Armaan went 5-0. But, listen, I tell you what, Armaan, hey, tell me a little bit about that. What I'd like for you to do, you can rub your hands because this is the moment, right? I want you to run through everything that India did wrong at the top in that power play and everything that England did right. And bear in mind, we did speak about this before as well. We're talking about this strategy, the Joss Butler strategy of not worrying about run rate. If you're a class player, you back yourself to make it up, like Kohli did today. But that only works if you make it up. If you don't, you put your side in a hole. Armaan, talk to me.
देखो सबसे पहली बात ये है विद ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट केएल राहुल की जगह बनती नहीं है इस टीम में ही शुड नॉट हैव बीन प्लेइंग शर्मा इज अ व्हाइट बॉल लेजेंड ऑफ इंडिया ठीक है ना ईशान किशन has just come off opening you've just to fit him in you've dropped Kohli down and you dropped Ishan down whatever they were trying to do it didn't work I definitely don't think India had their batting lineup right today with all due respect Rahul he scored 0-0-1-0 it does not really look like he deserves to be on merit opening when you've got a young player like Ishan Kishan in fact in the final over of the game, Nasser Hussain even said there is an Asian cultural issue with regards to more experienced players getting, having the respect so they get a place in the team. But you cannot hold these Indian youngsters down for very long. That's for sure. That was Nasser Hussain's comment, not mine. And I completely agree with what he said at that point. Now, coming on to Kohli's innings. With respect, he's my favorite player. I'm on record saying that on your show. He played some gorgeous shots today. We talked about that Kevin Peterson flip. We talked about the cover drive. देखो 77 जब आप बनाते हो ना as a Pakistani fan I know how it feels when wickets go down early on in a limited overs game you consolidate and then in the end you get your run rate up in the last 5 or 6 overs and in a 50 over game or a 20 over game you end up with a total with an RPO over 20 overs of 7 to 8 runs on over in 20 overs or in one day cricket Pakistan make 220 after being 130 for 6 and it's like wow all the momentum is game has changed. We are in like the 21st century. We've had IPL since 2008, 13 years of hitting, technology, sports science. These guys, with all due respect, I've been listening to people telling me that Archer was amazing, Wood was amazing. No, for me, these guys were not amazing. They are amazing players, but today they were just helped by some useless strategy in the batting side. They were leaving balls. Go back and watch it. I watched this game. If you leave a ball in T20, it's going to be a dot ball, right? So there's nothing great about Archer doing that or Wood doing that in terms of their skill level. I'm sure that they can restrict these batsmen on their day. Today, it was nothing to do with their skill. आप मुझे ये नहीं बता सकते कि यार Indian wickets पे 150 kph पे जब कोई bowling करता है, तो that's too hard for these guys to play. What are you saying? These are IPL players. These are players that have played the world's fastest bowlers. अभी तो you've all been telling me for the last few days, यार these wickets, the ball is not coming on. आज तो 150 पे it was coming on, फिर भी ये नहीं खेल पाए. भाई मेरे बात सुनो, India की batting is not that strong. And Kohli's innings, with all due respect, beautiful shots. Left it too late. You cannot score 77 as majestic as it was, as beautiful as it was. They ended up with a score that was 154, right? 154 in Ahmedabad in 20 overs is not a total that you think you will win with against England, right? Who've got the strongest team. So there were a lot of players after Hardik Pandya, I think, came in the last 2 overs. Uske baad Bhuvanesh bhi tha. They have 4-5 wickets in hand. So bhai, why are you playing 11 players? Why don't you just play 6 players in your game? If you don't trust your later batsmen to hit, you have to go early. So India had it totally wrong. I'm sorry. Kohli's innings was great for himself because he's under pressure. He needs some runs, but it was not a match-winning innings. So, with all due respect, I didn't love it as much as everyone else did.
Well, no, I definitely, nobody can dispute it wasn't a match-winning innings. He did have the identical strike rate to Jos Butler. So I think it's unfair to say that it wasn't a great innings. I think he didn't have the support. And I completely agree. 150 odd is not a good enough total. It's not a par. England were talking about 160 being par in the second T20, and obviously that was nowhere near par. So it wasn't a good score. But I think the blame you can't put on Kohli's shoulders, nor can you say it was a selfish or like a self-indulgent innings in any way. He got runs at a good strike rate, right? I'll let you.
But just one thing on that. I think we've all watched a lot of cricket. When you're batting first and somebody's batting second, you can't compare strike rates. The team batting second only need to match your strike rate to win. It's a totally the wrong metric to look at. If you are batting first, you need to go above and beyond looking at the situation of the game and the opposition of what a good total is. If they had made the most of their first 6 overs and if they had gone 2 overs early, instead of 154, they make 180 or 185. Let me just remind you, after 6 overs today, India had less than 30 runs. Less than 30 runs in a power play. So at the end of the day, looking at the game situation, it's nothing to do with the strike. All I need to do if I'm chasing is match the strike rate and I win the game. So Jos Butler having the same strike rate is perfect.
So wait, hold on. So just 1 second. I'll remind you, they lost 3 wickets in the power play as well. They also, shortly after that, at 64, they lost Rishabh Pant as well. So they're properly under the cosh at that point. Shreyas Iyer's coming in. Shreyas Iyer is a great bat, but he's not the most aggressive bat in the world, which is when Virat Kohli upped his strike rate. Now, I'll run you through the scorecard because I think you're being massively unfair to Kohli. Rohit Sharma, just one second, let me finish, please. 15. He got 15 off. Rohit Sharma got 15 off 17. Fine, he's coming back in the side. He's been out of touch. Rahul was bowled for 0 of 4. Ishan Kishan got 4 of 9. Rishabh Pant got 25 of 20, the only other player to have a 100-plus strike rate, apart from Pandya, who got 17 of 15. So he had 15 deliveries to play, this hard-hitting Pandya. He couldn't necessarily get it away the same way as Kohli did. Kohli managed to accelerate. He got 77 from 46 after being 28 of 29, which represents a huge jump in strike rate. It was
it reminded me a lot of how Kohli plays for RCB. And he's talked a little about this, about wanting India to be aggressive throughout, which massively takes the pressure off him. It means that he feels like he can go earlier. Now, like maybe he can go earlier because he does have those extra gears that we maybe thought he didn't have. He's got that ability to not play outside of his normal game, but score quicker and just kind of step it up at will. But there's only so much. I don't want to say there's only so much you can do from 22 for 3 because that's not quite fair. Because you have to do something once you find yourself in that position. But he was not helped by the top order. I actually don't think 15 off 17 is not fine. Like, 0 off 4, in a weird... this was KR Rahuls best naught of the naught that he scores, if only because it didn't last as long. But he didn't... The fact I completely agree with Anam. Like, if he gets out trying to hit a 6 or hit a 4, fine. But even if he middles that ball that he's trying to play, he's getting at most 1 for it. He looks hesitant, and I talked about, I completely agree. Just try to free him up a little bit, and at least go for something that will have an upside if you execute it. But then Kohli ends up in this situation where he feels like he has to be there through the end, and it slightly and it inhibited him. I think that's definitely the case that it inhibited him.
I'm worried that we're going on a little bit on this Kohli thing, and like we'll all disagree. But listen, everybody that's watching this, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Do you agree with Armaan that Kohli's innings should have had more impetus? Maybe he should have gone a little bit earlier, or do you think, like me, he did the best that he possibly could in that scenario, and it was really the rest of the team that let him down? Let us know what you think. Let's move on very quickly, and I do want to talk a little bit about England because they were quite superb, particularly Josh Butler. Now, everybody kind of supported him. Nobody went at a massive strike rate. I mean, Milan was there for a bit. And, I think he's not quite performed in the same way as people expect him as the world number 1 T20 batsman. But Josh Butler, back to something near his best, just dominating at the beginning. Even after Jason Roy continued his obsession with the reverse sweep and got it wrong, he just was unrelenting until sort of the second half when the equation was very much in hand and he can just chill and play the ball for singles and 2s and 3s and 4s here and there. Anam, tell me about how special that Josh Butler innings was.
It was so special कि उसकी reverse sweeps जो थी वो चौके लग रहे थे और जब Jason Roy reverse sweep खेल रहा था तो वो out हो गया. It's as simple as that. I know Kohli dropped him on 77, 76 while he was attempting a reverse sweep, but still he was connecting so well. उसकी शॉटें सारी बाहर ग्राउंड से जो और वो चाहल के जो 2 छक्के उसने down the ground करके मारे हैं वो बहुत fit थे. So he looked in control of his innings. He looked like someone who knew what he was doing. उसको यार फिर मुझे नहीं पता, फिर बात वहीं पे आती है कि जब आप चेस कर रहे हो तो पिछले मैच में जब कोहली भी चेस कर रहा था तो कोहली also looked like he knew what he was doing. ठीक है, बेशक 1-2 ऊपर से आउट हो गए थे, केएल राहुल आउट हो गया था, but I don't know. I think जब आप चेस करने आते हो, पहले के जमानों में होता था यार चेस कर रहे हो, बहुत प्रेशर है, चेजिंग टीम जो है कांस्टेंट प्रेशर के अंदर है कि पता नहीं स्कोर कर पाएंगे नहीं. अब उल्टा ही हो गया है कि भाई चेस करना आसान है, पहले इनिंग्स में स्कोर करना मुश्किल है. आप चेस करने आते हो, you know what you need to do. You can up the ante as well going along. And then I think India missed a trick. फिर वही, they didn't bowl Sundar in the power play. I think we need to emphasize on that as well. I don't know, maybe because उनको डर था कि 2 right-handers हैं तो पता नहीं सुंदर के साथ क्या करेंगे. But he was the most economical bowler in Bhubaneswar and Sundar both. So I think India missed a trick again. They should have bowled him in the power play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even England, like they seem almost reluctant to bowl Rashid in the first over. It was everybody criticised it because they won their first game. Rashid made this great impact immediately, but in the second game they go to the seamers, they go to Curran, And then they go back again this time, but he only got 1 over in the power play this time, Adil Rashid. What did you make of India's bowling strategy, Armaan? Do you think like the spinners should have come in a little bit earlier? Do you think they could have been a little bit more dynamic? I know before anybody chimes, they were poor in the field. I think England were quite poor as well, generally in the field. So they both could have done better in that respect. But what do you think? Were the bowlers a bit too short? Do you think they could have done anything differently, or was it just a case of too low a total, no chance to defend it?
Like looking from the outside, the Indian management, Indian captaincy, it doesn't seem to be very confident in terms of implementing its strategies. Firstly, you have created your red soil wicket, which we talked about earlier, which is meant to be conducive to spin. Then you don't bowl Washington Sundar, who was your most effective spinner in the power play last game, again today. You again similar with Sharma, you've got him in the team, but then you don't want to play him. So then you've got Ishan Kishan scoring. Now you want to move him down to 3 to fit in. There is a lot of confusion in this India lineup, which bodes well, I suppose, for a lot of the oppositions who are going to be traveling for the World Cup to India, because India are a powerhouse. They are really, really tough to beat at home. But right now, I do feel there is an element of self-destruction that they're capable of, and we're seeing this confusion in terms of strategy. Maybe it's because Kohli's under pressure. He hasn't been scoring runs before this series. He's finally scoring runs. Then he's not scoring fast enough, potentially. Still not putting in, arguably, whatever. Then we're not really sure whether we should use the spinner. We don't have the confidence to put our spinners. Listen, it's Asia. So the question you asked me about the bowling strategy, if you can't back your spinners in Asia, you can never back them. So both teams, England, by the way, also in the last 5 overs conceded 69 runs today. So they also, could have used a spinner effectively to try and have a breakthrough. These are red soil Indian subcontinental wickets. अगर यहाँ पे spinner काम नहीं करेंगे तो कहाँ करेंगे मेरे भाई?
I'm gonna get you a T-shirt that says horticulture. Master horticulturist, 100%. Nakul, just a word as we wrap up a little bit here. Where do England go from here? Like, obviously, they've gone ahead. They've gone 2-1 ahead in this series. They've got a chance. Some of the commentators suggesting they've got a chance to experiment a little bit ahead of the World Cup. They're in India. They won't be, they don't know how many more chances they're going to get to play in India ahead of the World Cup. So it's a good chance to try a few different combinations out. Do you do that, or do you stick to the winning combination, complete the win, and take the win home? What do you do if you're running the show?
I think any rotation that they make or any changes that are going to be based on if Morgan thinks it's the best 11 to win this game. Owen Morgan's finally got his first choice 11. It's the only time he's not going to get it during the summer, by the way, because they're going to go back into the white ball, red ball bubbles. In terms of getting experience, like some of these guys are going to be playing the IPL. Sam Billings, I don't know if he'll actually get a game, but he might be playing the IPL. Maybe you bring in Moeen Ali for one of the seamers, but only if you think that Moeen Ali is your best bet to help you win that game. Which he may well be. He's one of the best spin hitters in the world. He gives you that extra spin option. The reason they didn't bowl a spinner in the last few overs is because Adil Rashid had already bowled out and they didn't have another spinner. On India, by the way, they did bowl spin in the power play. They bowled Chahal in the power play, which they did on Friday as well. I think they're trying this thing to get Chahal bowling in the power play and get Washington used to bowling a little bit more outside of the power play. I don't know if it's just giving them some extra strings to their bow ahead of the World T20. I'll be really interested to see because normally for RCB and for India, Washington bowls in the power play and then Chahal comes on just after the power play, which is, I guess, the more usual way to use an off spinner or finger spinner and a wrist spinner. Be really interesting to see how Kohli uses them in the IPL to see if this is something that I think they can both. Washington seems to be brilliant at every stage of the innings, and I think Chahal could be useful in the power play for sure. I think he's certainly good enough to take that on. But he was trying something unusual because he had to, because the total wasn't big enough to play quote unquote normal cricket and defend it. Which I completely understand. I think there is a certain element of India didn't lose this game with their bowling. To some extent, I think, and again, like Shardul Thakur, I think showed his improvement. Bhuvi's kind of coming back to form quite nicely. Hardik bowled pretty well for someone who is again still coming back to full fitness. Like obviously, you'll have Bumrah back for the T20. I wouldn't be too worried about the bowling, and it was very good on Sunday as well. Like for England, but no, like Morgan is ruthless. Morgan wants to win, and he wants to build this winning mentality of these are the guys. This is us at full strength. This is us going to steamroller you. The ideal for Owen Morgan now is that England bat first, score 180 and win. Like that's the only thing missing really from this series now is England to win batting first. I wouldn't be surprised. The only bit of experimentation in that sense, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if either in the fourth or fifth T20 if England win the toss and bat first, just to go for that little bit of extra, just to see what they can do to kind of build that strategy. Because you can't, as much as it's great, like restricting teams and then chasing down and making a mockery of targets. You can't go into a World Cup not knowing how you're going to play if you do end up batting first. But I wouldn't expect too many. I wouldn't expect any rotation for rotation's sake. Like it'll be either if Mark Wood doesn't pull up again quite fit, or if they want the extra spinner because they think they're going to win the game. I wouldn't say it's too much different from India, by the way. To be honest, I think that again maybe I don't think there's any need to change the bowling, and I don't think replacing Rahul now is going to help. I don't think it helps him, and I don't think it helps whoever replaces him. So I wouldn't expect anything beyond like one or two changes that are tactical based on whatever the strongest 11 to win this game is.
That's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what England do next. I'd love to see them win the toss and bat first, just to mix it up a little bit. I want to see poor Liam Livingstone get a game as well. He's just spent his whole summer hanging out in India, doing nothing but netballing. Guys, it's been a pleasure to have you. Very, very quickly. Predictions on the next game. Anam, who's winning the next game? England or India?
India.
India, okay. Anam's got all of them right so far, by the way. I have to tell you, she's got all of her predictions right so far. Armaan, what's happening in the next game?
5-0 England.
5-0 England. He's still standing by that. They could overturn the result of the second T20, I suppose. Nakul, who's winning the next game?
Well, I went 3-2 England at the start of the series, so I'm going to go India, and if only because I'm commentating the last game for Gorilla Cricket and want the decider.
Fantastic. Well, guys, if you get a chance to, definitely check out Nakul. Follow him on social media. He's great, and he's very, very good commentator on Gorilla Cricket as well. So definitely follow their great work. Anam, Armaan, Nakul, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. Guys, we'll be back after the fourth T20 International in this series. We'll see who comes out on top. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you on Thursday.